Today's easy daf, and I think afterwards maybe we went for some hard dafing, but today is the first day of this month. I lost it up here. I see. 1 second, please. I have to go down. No, for some reason I lost it. 1 second, please. Okay, I think it's on now. The top is on. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So on the top of Daf Memtes, really we had the issue a couple of pages ago, but it's presented in a different format now, and I'm not sure why we have the repetition. So before we talked about the Daf Memtes, I think it was Isaiah Machzik Gushas over there spoke about lots of mamzer, but here it presents it in the format of what is the criteria that makes somebody a mamzer. And there are going to be 3 opinions. Over there we had 2 opinions. Here comes a 3rd opinion also. So the mission starts. The first opinion is Rabbi Akiva. Any relative that is a lo saseh, that's a negative commandment. We're going to have 3 levels: a negative commandment, and then more than that is going to be chayv kares, and more than that is chayv mises bezdin. We just had yesterday's parsha and Parshas Kedoshim, Machrimos Kedoshim, we spoke about the arayos, and it said over there, and Nachrimos it just says that you're not allowed to, but in Parshas Kedoshim yesterday it said those that are kares, those that are streifa, those that are skila. So the Mishnah is going to discuss those that are only chayv kares, that's the middle category, and those that even chayv mises bezdin. And there's also a lo yovo, just a plain lo saseh that it says do not. And that's not so easy to find. What's a plain lo saseh? Most of them are chayv kares. Most of the relations are chayv kares, at least, not only a lo saseh. Rashi tells us that there's going to be a nusas aviv. According to Rabbi Yehuda, that's going to be considered a lo saseh. If father, eshes aviv is chayv skila. If somebody has relations with his father's wife, not only his mother, even his father's wife, both of them are skila. But a nusas aviv means that as the father raped the woman. So according to Rabbanan, according to the halacha, it's mutter for the son to marry her. But according to Rabbi Yehuda, it will be asur, but it's only a lav. It's not going to be chayiv kares. So that's an example of anusa sav. Rashi has another case of maybe nosei chalutzaso that also that he was his brother's wife who died without children, and he gave her chalitza. So that's a lav. We say that it takes off the kares. It's only a lav. So Rashi has 2 examples of what's considered a lo saseh. That's considered a relation. So sher bosa means a relation, a relative. That's a lo saseh. According to Rabbi Akiva, that's already enough to make the child a mamzer. Shimon atim liyomer kol shachayav all of kares b'dei shemaim. Only if it's kares. If it only be a lav, then the child would not be a mamzer. Only if the union was that which is kares, which is most of them, many of them. But there are some which are even chayiv mises bezdin, and they surely are going to be a mamzer, even kares also. Halacha kedvarav. The halacha is like Shimon atimli. That's how we paskin. Even though usually we don't paskin like this, because the Mishnah says halacha is like that. But here it happens to be we do paskin like this middle category, the middle opinion, that anything which is chayv kares is the child's going to be a mamzer. But Rabbi Shua is more lenient and says that a mamzer is only the result of chayv mises bezdin. Rabbi Shua Omer kol shechayav nolav mises bezdin, which would be a mother, a father's wife, a daughter-in-law, and also any kind of isha or bita, or a person's daughter and granddaughter, a wife's mother and a wife's daughter. All those are chayiv mises bezdin. According to Rabbi Shua, only the result of that union is going to be a mamzer, but not if it's only kares. So the 3 opinions: alosa, chayv elavin, chayv krisos, and chayv mises bezdin. And again, we pass them like the middle category. And we pass them like the middle category. That chayv krisos is the category that's going to make a mamzer. Omar Rabbi Shimon ben Azai. Because of ish ploni mamzer me'eches. I found a lineage document. How we have another word for that? Megillah Shechsin. It had a document about somebody, about the lineage, and over there it said that a certain person is a mamzer. Bezdin had documented that a certain family is a mamzerim, but they wrote over there not just as a mamzer, they wrote me'eches, because it was a result of a eches, which that the married woman had relations out of marriage, and that's chayiv misa, that's chenek. I didn't mention that before. I just said relations before, but someone's a relative. But here besides being a relative, if a woman is a married woman, so surely is a chayiv misa. That's chenek. So the child, this person, a certain person, was written that he's a mamzer because he was the result. He was the son of a union of a married woman that had relations out of marriage. Why did it have to say that? I could have just said Ishponi Mamzer. Why did it say Meishes Ish? So he wanted to be Medaik, Lakaim Devrei Rabbi Yeshua, because that Megillas Yuchsin, whoever wrote it, they held like Rabbi Yeshua that it's only a Mamzer if the union was Chayv Mises Bezdin. That's why they specified that it's a Mamzer Meishes Ish. If it would have just been a Mamzer, you might think, no, maybe it's they're calling it a Mamzer from a Chayv Krisus, but the Mishnah is saying no, that it's only a Mamzer because it was Meishes Ish. So the Mishnah does seem at the end to support the last opinion, but again, we don't pass like that. We pass like the middle opinion, like Shimon HaTimni, that Chayv Koris is the result is the result of Chayv Krisus, the union does produce a Mamzer. End of that Mishnah. We're going to a new Mishnah. If you a new page, the Gemara is going to go back to the first Mishnah, but there are two Mishnahs here that are printed together, and now it starts a new Mishnah. So the pasuk talks about marrying a sister, a wife's sister, and it says we had a couple of times that it's also to take wife's sister as long as she's alive. But once she died, then it's mutter to take the wife's sister. That's what the Mishnah is going to say in short, and it's going to have a lot of points that will all come back to the same issue, the same one point. That if once she died, it's mutter to marry her sister.
She's the only one. All the other
Right. Very good. Much is pointing out all that rights besides the sister doesn't make a difference if the relating factor is alive or not. It means it's also to marry a daughter-in-law or a mother-in-law forever, even after the wife died or the son died. They would still also all the different kinds of relatives are also. That's what he's saying. We're saying there's one exception. There's only exception that happens that only as long as the relation is still there, that it's a wife's sister. But once the wife died, so then he'd be allowed to marry the sister.
That's right.
Yes. And the Mishnah says for some reason this Chedushim over here, I don't know what the Chedush is. It doesn't just say plain thing that once the wife dies, it's mutter. It says, even what if he divorced her and then she died? If he divorced her alone and she didn't die, that's not enough. A person can't marry his divorcee's sister. But for some reason, you might have thought that if he divorced her and then his wife, and then she died, maybe there's no heter to marry your sister. For some reason, you might think so. I don't know why. But the Mishnah says no, that's also mutter. As long as she died, doesn't make a difference when she died. Even if she died after a divorce, also it'll be mutter to marry her sister. Gersho Mesa mutter bachosa. If he divorced his wife and then she died, it is still mutter to marry her sister. And even if he divorced her and she remarried and then she died, for some reason, I don't know what the hasvar is. You might think that there's no heter of marrying her sister, even though she died. No, also permissible. Then the Mishnah goes on to tell you the same same three cases about a wife that died, and a wife who divorced and died, or a wife that he divorced and she married somebody else and then she died. It says the same thing by a zakuka l'yava. The same three things, and it's pashut because a yevama, his brother's wife that died, and now she's a zakuka, is not going to be worse than a wife. She's a zakuka. We had a question of yesh zika, ein zika, even if you hold yesh zika, but it's not going to be more than a wife. So if a wife dies, it's mutter to marry her sister. So certainly when a yevama dies, and he's allowed to marry her sister, as long as there's yevama. We had the old din of a chos kukaso, that when she's obligated to him to yibum, so he's not allowed to marry her sister. That's called a chos kukaso. The same way he's not allowed to marry a chos ishto, he's not allowed to marry a chos kukaso. And the Mishnah is going to say, but that's only as long as she's alive. But if she died, it's mutter to marry her sister. Or if he divorced, he gave chalitza and then she died, also allowed to marry her sister. Or if he gave chalitza and she married somebody else, and then she died, also married. It's the same thing over again. The same three cases it says over again as far as Yevimto. Before I spoke about Ishto, now it talks about Yevimto, the same thing. And the Chor is Pashut, because if it can't be worse than a wife. The fact that she's kuka doesn't make it more chomer than a wife. So that's what it says. Yevimto Shemeisa Mutter Bachosa, his sister-in-law, who's standing for Yibum. She's obligated him to Yibum. He didn't do anything yet. He didn't do Chalitza, he didn't do Yibum. He's not allowed to marry her sister. But if she died, he's allowed to marry her sister. Chalatzla, Umesa, Mutter Bachosa. Also, if he gave her Chalitza and then she died, also he can marry her sister. And this is Lachav Bamesa, also Mutter Bachosa. He gave Chalitza and she married somebody else, and then she died. As long as she's alive, he's not allowed to marry the sister. Achos Chalitzaso is also awesome. But Achos Chalitzaso, but after the Chalitza died, even if she married somebody else, he'd be allowed to marry her sister. So, in short, it goes back to what it says in the highlighted yellow. Ishto Shemesa Mutter Bachosa. And if you might think, only in certain cases, no. In all cases, once the wife died, even if she already had divorced her, even if she already remarried, whenever she died, it's mutter to marry her sister. So two Mishnahs, nothing to do with each other. The first one was about what's the criteria to make a mamzer, and he had three opinions: chayve lavin, chayve krisas, chayve Mrs. Bezdin. And then another Mishnah, nothing to do with that, about the heter to marry a wife's sister after the wife dies. The Gemara goes back to the first Mishnah about what makes a mamzer, and the Gemara is going to say the drasha for each one. Where does anybody get that it's chayve lavin, Rabbi Kiva? Where does Shimon Atimni get that it's chayve koris? Where does Rabbi Shua get that it's chayve Mrs. Bezdin? Yes.
Why are we going to the Mishnah again? Are we going backwards?
No, we're not going backwards. We're going according to the Mishnah. The question is, why is the Mishnah repeating again?
That's not right.
So I said before that I don't know.
Maybe Rabbi Shua wasn't mentioned.
It wasn't mentioned, right?
So
We
maybe
did.
that's the finish.
Okay, but it could have said it before then. Why say the whole thing over again? It also says in a different format. Before it's talking about Masik Rishoso, and it talked about a case. Now it talks about the klal, Ezel Mamzer. Like this is more simple. So I'm not sure why it says it in this format, why it said it before in a different format, why it has on every show over here. Okay, the Gemara now is going to say the drasha of each one, and it has to do with Pashas Kiseitse. And just to see the pasuk over there, it says Lo Yavo Mamzer B'Kal Hashem. That's the pasuk where it says that it's also for a mamzer to marry a Jewish woman, and if that's the place where it says it, and we're going to learn out from there. What is a mamzer? What is a mamzer? Just a side point. What does the word mamzer mean? What is the translation of the word mamzer? So, what the translation? I'm not sure exactly, but so there's the people quote a medrash that says mumzar, and they seem to translate it like a strange blemish. But that's not I once went into the subject a little bit, and that's not really what it says. It has lashon like beitzim muzaros, that it means spoiled. The word means spoiled, and you talk about the beitzim muzaros means a spoiled egg. So the medrash that says that a mamzer is like when that word or mozros said, it means that there's a spoiled seed, like something's wrong. This doesn't have to do with the mumzor. I think that's not the real medrash that people quote. They quote it, but I think that's not the real meaning of that medrash. So the question is, what makes this person to be that status of a mamzer? There's not a lot of married Bas Yisrael, and it's surely a blemish, and he has to only marry a mamzeres or gioris. The child forever is going to be a mamzer. So where do they get it from? So this pasuk li'ov mamzer b'kal Hashem, it's encased with the proximity of other psukim, where we're going to learn out from the smichos, from the proximity, we're going to learn out what constitutes a mamzer. So it says in the pasuk over there, lo yikach ishes aishes aviv, v'lo yigaleh kanaf aviv. And then it says, Lo Yava Mamzer B'Kal Hashem. It says a person should not marry his father's wife, and he should not uncover the garment of his father. That's like a nashon nekiya, a clean way of saying that he should not have relations with his father's wife. In the Pashut Pshat, that's all it says. He says that he should not marry his father's wife. And then it says he should not marry a mamzer. If you learn the simple Pshat, it would come out that it seems to be talking about a father's wife would produce a mamzer, and then that would be only chiv Mrs. Bezdin, because the father's wife is kila. And the Gemara doesn't want to say that. The Gemara wants to say, according to Rabbi Kiva, even the chayve lavin. So the Gemara is going to somehow, let us highlight the psukim just to concentrate on it. Here it says, lo yikach ish, too much. Didn't mean to do that. No, also not. Let's try again. There it is. That's the pasuk. Then later on it says, Lo Yovo Mamzer B'Kal Hashem. These are two psukim, one after the other. It says, Lo Yikach Ish Es Eishes Aviv, V'lo Yigaleh Kanaf Aviv. A person should not marry his father's wife, and he should not uncover the garment of his father. And then the next pasuk says, there is a psukim in between. The psukim in between, Taisa talks about it, but we're not going to talk about that. But it says, Lo Yivapstu Adaka, but we're going to skip that. But afterwards it says, Lo Yavo Mamzer B'Kal Hashem. That it's also for mamzer to marry. And the Gemara says a drasha to say that the result, the union of whatever is said in this pasuk of Lo Yikach Ish Es Eishes Aviv, that's going to produce a mamzer. So if you take the pasuk literally, simply, it will talk about Eishes Aviv. Eishes Aviv is chayv skila. If someone has relations with his father's wife, he's chayv skila. So that what makes a mamzer. So Rabbi Kiva is talking. Rabbi Kiva holds that even chayv lavin is also a mamzer. So how is he going to dash in the psukim in order to see here a chayv lavin? So he dashes that lo yigaleh kanaf aviv is not talking about just the same case as a father's wife. Kanaf shera aviv lo yigaleh. V'savol akav Yudah dama v'anusa savol kasam adaber. Havilei chayv lavin. That the pasuk that says lo yigaleh kanaf aviv is not talking about the first part of the pasuk, I'm a father's wife. It's talking about a woman that the father raped without marriage, out of marriage. That kanaf shera aviv, that means that his father had relations with her, but not in marriage. That's called an anusa. He raped her. Or if it would have been bafuta, if it would have been that he seduced her, but it means that was out of marriage. And Rabbi Yehuda holds that it's allowed, lo yigale, that it's usher. According to Rabbanan, it's mutter for the son to marry her. But according to Rabbi Yehuda, it's a lo sase. Here's the case of a chayvei lavin. The samach lei lo yavo mamzer v'kal Hashem. And then the pasuk says a mamzer shouldn't marry. And the Gemara is learning out that that's a wuzu mamzer, a result of that union. If somebody is going to marry the anusas of it, means that he transgressed a lo sase by having relations with this woman that he's not allowed to. So the child is going to be a mamzer. Alma mahani having mamzer. So you see that from this kind of a union it becomes a mamzer. That's the first drush of Rabbi Kiva. It's good. So far, it's good. That's the drush of Rabbi Kiva. That's where he gets that a chayvei lavin is also going to produce a mamzer.
Such a stretch.
Everything's a drush. It's a drush. Not called a stretch. It's called a drush. It means
No,
that
because-
no one's saying that's pshat. We're not saying pshat. This is not pshat. This is drush. But you have to go into the drush world.
You can learn halacha.
The halach is always from the drush. The halach is not the pshat. The halach is not from the pshat. The halach is always from the drush. So the Torah is written in a way that you could see something behind the scenes. The Gemara says that Rabbi Kiva's opinion is not so simple. Rabbi Kiva that says chayvei lavin is two kinds of chayvei lavin. If you look in our Mishnah, the first words it says ezel mamzer kol she'er basar shu lo yavo. Means it doesn't just say kol shu lo yavo. It doesn't just say any kind of lo sase. It says a she'er basar. She'er basar means a relative who's a lo sase. So that's a question if Rabbi Kiva means that or not. And according to what we said so far, the anusas of it will be some kind of a she'er. That will be some kind of a relative. But according to Rabbi Simoy is an Amora, I think, is an Amora that says, according to Rabbi Kiva, the Marbashar Chayvei Lavin, the Lav Share. He says that not only Rabbi Kiva doesn't only mean to say it's a relative, even if it will be a non-relative, but it will be a lo sase, also it would be the child will be a mamzer. Rashi says, what is that? What is the case going to be of a lo sase, which is not relative? He says one case would be machzik rushaso, or a nasin, or amoni shenasa bas Yisrael. That the pasuk says la yava asek, easy one. La yava amoni b'kal Hashem. La yava amoni ma'ovi b'kal Hashem. That's a lo sase. Over there, it's not going to be a relative. The reason why you're not allowed to marry a ger, a convert who's from the nation of Ammon, is not because of relative, no relation, but it's a lo sase. So according to our Tana, Rabbi Kiva doesn't know that the child is a mamzer because only sher basar, only a relative who's a chayvei lavin. But this is a chayvei lavin. That's not a sher basar. So according to our Tana, Rabbi Kiva would not hold that it's a mamzer. But Rabbi Simoy says that according to Rabbi Kiva, it's also mamzer. Rabbi Simoy, the mar b'shar chayvei lavin, the lav the share. So where did they get it from? I mean, the pasuk you just brought about anusas of it, some kind of a relation. Sher basar means that as far as had relations with her, that's enough to be called the kivas basar. But according to Rabbi Simoy, you have to have more of a drasha because so far the pasuk only told us about anusas of it, which only would be a relative, but you wouldn't be able to learn out amoni. Some a plain lav. How do you know that according to Rabbi Kiva that a regular lav would also make that the child is a mamzer? Another question before we get to the answer. Will the Rabbi Yeshivov, the mar ba'afilu l'chayvi asay, that Rabbi Yeshivov holds that according to Rabbi Kiva, I think according to Rabbi Kiva, that even not only a los asay, even an asay, even there are some relations that it's also not only a negative, not even a negative commandment, it's a positive commandment. Like it says that Domi and a Mitzri, over there it says, don't push them away. It says, Lo Sa'id Mitzri. It doesn't say don't marry a Mitzri who's a ger. It says on the three generations it's also. So it said there are Shlishi of Olam B'Kal Hashem. Over there it doesn't say don't. It says don't push them away. Lo Sa'id Mitzri, Lo Sa'id Adomi. Don't abominate them to push them away completely. The third generation may come into Am Yisrael. So over there it's only an asay. If someone would marry a Mitzri, the first generation or second generation, that's he transgressed a positive commandment because he didn't do a lo sa'id. The pasuk didn't say don't marry. The pasuk said don't abominate.
What's the difference?
And it said, what's the law?
Don't abominate.
What does abominate mean?
Yes, I understand, but don't do it.
The pasuk says marry the third generation.
Okay.
Doesn't say don't marry the first generation. It says marry the third. You may marry the third generation. So it's inferred. You can infer from that don't marry the first and second. But that's not called a negative commandment. That's called you transgress a positive commandment. Good. So according to Rabbi Yeshua, we need more of a drasha because we didn't find so far that the pasuk makes a mamzer out of a transgression of a positive commandment. It only spoke about transgressing a negative commandment. So where would Rabbi Kiva, Rabbi Yeshua, how would he get the source to say that even the result of a union of a say is also going to be a mamzer? Means if someone had relations with a Mitzri first generation,
Right.
a ger Mitzri first generation, or ger adomi, first generation. So he transgressed an
It's not a
asay.
valid gear. I'm sorry.
It's a valid gear.
Huh?
It's not say it's not a valid gear,
But he's not allowed to marry.
He's not allowed to marry.
He can become a gear, but he can't be married.
right? And he has to marry. He can marry Giorus, the first generation, and then eventually the third generation can marry. But he married the first generation. He transgressed the mitzvah saseh, and he says the Rabbi Yeshua says that the child is a mamzer. Where does it come from? It means you need a source for all this. We only brought a source so far for a lo saseh. That's a she'er basa. Now we have to find, according to Rabbi Simon, we have to find the source that even if it wouldn't be a relative, and according to Rabbi Yeshua, we have to find the source even for asay. The union of a chayve asay also produces a mamzer. How do you know? Nafkalu mivilo means the pasuk says the extra vav, the vav that says in the beginning the lo yigala kanaf aviv, that it says lo yigala vilo. This vav over here is enough to dash in something more. So it's coming to add on something. What is coming to add? Either coming to add on even a losa say that's not a share bosa, not a relative, or it's coming to add on even a say. So we have a source for Rabbi Akiva, according to any version of Rabbi Akiva, from this pasuk that's what makes a mamzer, lo yigala kanaf aviv, which is either talking about a nusa saviv. And even the vav adds on even more, even if it wouldn't be a relative, it would be like a Amoni, or even a Asay, like a Mitzri. Also, Contra Bakiva, all that might be a mamzer.
What's the word mula mean?
No, it's me below.
Oh,
Me below. The pasuk says velo yigale. So you learn it out from below, from below. So that was all to take care of Rabbi Akiva. Shimon HaTimni in our Mishnah said that it's only a mamzer from Chayvi Koros. Where does he get that? So the pasuk, we get again the pasuk in the yellow over here. Lo yikach ish es eishes aviv lo yigal lekanaf aviv. The beginning of the pasuk is talking about chayv misas bezdin. Eishes aviv is chayv skila. So that's not the Shimon HaTimni. He says chayv koros. And lo yigal lekanaf aviv we said is anusas aviv if anything. So if that's allowed. Where does he get koros? He has to put some place in here koros to show that that's going to be the mamzer. Lo yav mamzer b'kal Hashem. So what does Shimon HaTimni do? Shimon HaTimni sabalu pirabana da'ami b'shemeres yav mishalav v'kasim v'daber. They learned that this pasuk v'lo yigaleh kanaf aviv is not talking about anusas aviv like Rabbi Yehuda said, but it's talking about shemeres yavam shalaviv, his father's brother's wife who died without children. His father has a yevama waiting for him. So if the son would have relations with that woman, what did he transgress? It's not his father's wife. It's his father's brother's wife. A father's brother's wife is what?
As a cook.
Yes. But the reason that the son is going to be us is not because it is kuka, it's because it's the father's brother's wife. And that's chayv koros. That's not chayv misas bezin. Misas bezin is only the father's wife. But the father's brother's wife is chayv koros. And if they learn that that's pshat, and it's a drash, of course it's a drash, it's not a pashup pshat. But if you say lo yigaleh kanaf aviv is talking about the father's brother's wife, then it's good. Then the Rabbanan found the chayv koros over there, and it says that's what's a mamzer. The Shimon HaTimni, some look Rabbanan that they say that the pasuk is talking about the father's brother's wife. That's the status of a chayvi koros, and that it says lo yavam mamzer. V'samachlei lo yavam mamzer. Alma mechayvi krisas havi mamzer. That's the drush of Shimon HaTimni. That's where he learns out that the union of a chayvi koros produces a mamzer. Rabbi Yeshua was the third opinion in our Mishnah, and he said that only a chayv misas bezdin. Where does he get that? So you might say the pasuk on the pasuk that it says lo yikach ish eishes aviv. That's the simple that it means a father's wife. And that's going to be a chayv misas bezdin. Does he say that? Rabbi Yeshua, now he has a problem because he also says that it says lo yigaleh kanaf aviv. He has to dash something over there. What does he do with this pasuk? Lo yigaleh kanaf aviv. If it would have only said lo yikach eishes aviv, then it would have been good. His drasha would have been good. That it says eishes aviv, and the result of that is going to be a mamzer. That's chayv misas bezdin. But it does say these four words: lo yigaleh kanaf aviv. So what does that mean? According to Rabbi Yeshua, how does Rabbi Yeshua dash in that pasuk? He also agrees that it's either a chayv lavin or it's going to be a chayv koros. So how can he learn out that lo yavam mamzer is going back on lo yikach eishes aviv? That's what the Gemara has to deal with now. Rabbi Yeshua, lo yigaleh kama lo yikach lamali means if you're right that the pasuk wants to say that a chayve krisas makes a mamzer, and that's all the pasuk is coming to teach you over there. All the assuming already from other places. The pasuk is only come to teach you what's a mamzer. So why does it have to say the first pasuk? Does say the second pasuk? Does say lo yigaleh kanaf aviv and then lo yavam mamzer? If you are bana, you say the pasuk is coming to tell you that a chayve krisas makes already a mamzer. So the pasuk should have left out the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It should have left out the first 6 words. Just say lo yigaleh kanaf aviv. That's the case of the shemeres yavam. That's the father's brother's wife. That's the chayv koros, and that it says it's a mamzer. But according to you, kal v'chomer, surely the first case of eishes aviv which is a chayiv Mrs. Bezin, surely it's going to be a mamzer. If chayiv Ikaris makes a mamzer, surely chayiv Mrs. Bezin makes a mamzer. So Yeshua is saying it must be the pasuk is really telling you that only the first part of the pasuk is what makes a mamzer. It's a little strange. It's not a regular rush over here. It says chayiv Mrs. Bezin, then it says chayiv Ikaris, then it says mamzer. And Yeshua is going to say that the chayiv that the mamzer is only going back in the first case. Only the first half of the pasuk. Only the chayiv Mrs. Bezin is a mamzer, and the chayiv Ikaris is not a bit. It's not. That's pretty strange. But he says it must be that way because if it's going only on it's going even on the second part. So just say the second part. The judge should have said chayiv Ikaris, and that's a mamzer. And kol b'chomer chayiv Mrs. Bezin. That's this guy.
That's Rabbi Akiva's Jewish, that he brings the whole pasuk. So he doesn't bring the whole pasuk. He only brings the second half.
Again, the first half of the pasuk is chayiv Mrs. Bezin. The second half we have two choices. Either it means Rabbi Akiva said it means alav, like Nusas of it, or the one said that it means Shemer Yevamos Shalova, which means chayiv Ikaris. Rabbi Yeshua is against everybody. Rabbi Yeshua says it's only going on the beginning of the pasuk. It's only.
He just learn it with that. That's how he learns the Jewish. He doesn't deal with the second part.
He has to.
Wow.
It says the second. It says 4 words. What is he going to do with that? He can't just say erase it. It says lo yigal leknaf of it. It means something. It doesn't. He also holds that it doesn't just mean H of it. It means there's something else saying over there. He also holds that it means Shemer Yovam. It means a chayiv krisus. So if it says chayiv krisus next to mamzer, so he also should agree that it's a chayiv krisus, and he doesn't. He says no, only chayiv Mrs. Bezin. So he says back to the Rabbanan, if it will be true the way you're darshaning, then it shouldn't have said the beginning of the pasuk. It only should have said the end of the pasuk to say that even chayiv Ikaris makes a mamzer and kal v'chomer chayiv Mrs. Bezin makes a mamzer. The fact that it does say the beginning of the pasuk, it must be that it's only referring to the beginning of the pasuk and not to the second half of the pasuk. So why does it say the second half of the pasuk for? That the Gemara doesn't deal with. Rashi takes care of it. To tell us, maybe he wants to tell us other information. Rashi takes care of that. The Gemara doesn't deal with it. But that's the Gemara inside. Rabbi Yeshua answers the Rahman lo yigala. If it will be true that it's only coming to tell you chayiv krisus, it's coming to tell you chayiv krisus, it should have just said lo yigala. Lo yikach lamali. Why does it say the beginning of the pasuk, which is chayiv Mrs. Bezdin? El lavachi come. The pasuk must mean to say lo yikach ad lo yigala havi mamzer tfei lo havi mamzer. Only the beginning of the pasuk. Only the beginning of the pasuk, which means I'm reading Rashi's pshat. It says a little different girsa, but according to the way Rashi girsa, it says the pasuk means to say only the beginning of the pasuk makes a mamzer. Why does it say the case of Koresh? Ayin Rashi. You have to say a teretz why the pasuk says again over here lo yigal leknaf aviv. But as far as what makes a mamzer, only the beginning of the pasuk makes a mamzer. Only a chayiv Mrs. Bezdin. So we have the drasha for all three. We finished the drashas. Machlokas in the Mishnah. What makes a mamzer? According to Rabbi Akiva chayiv elavin. We have a question in the other the Farshim of Rabbi Akiva if it's only share bosa, even not a relative, even maybe chayiv yaseh, whatever it is. He learns it out from lo yigal leknaf aviv, which is talking about a nusa of. Maybe the below is also the above is coming to be marba more, and that's a low saseh, maybe even coming to be marba v'at share bosa, maybe even an aseh. The Rabbanan say that lo yigal leknaf aviv is talking about Shemer Yevamos Shalova, which means a father's brother's wife, which is chayiv Koris, and on that it says it's a mamzer. And according to Yeshua, it's only going on the beginning of the pasuk lo yikach ish eshes aviv, which is a father's wife. That's what, which is Mrs. Bezdin. That's what makes a mamzer. As far as the halacha, we said we pass like the middle opinion that if the union was chayiv Koris, so the child is a mamzer. Not more and not less means not more means okay chayiv Mrs. Bezdin surely, but not only more. Even Koris alone is the enough to make a mamzer, and chayiv 11 don't make a mamzer. It's also to have the relation, but the child is not going to be a mamzer. We did speak about a while ago if the child is going to be pagam lakuna. Chayiv 11, it came out that it's not even a pagam lakuna. The chayiv 11, if the relationship was a chayiv 11, doesn't make the child even to be a pagam lakuna. We thought that very nice, very good, very beautiful. That was the Gemara. The Gemara said that according to Yeshua, chayiv krisus is masking that the child is a mamzer. That was the Gemara. That's what the Gemara came out. First, the Gemara thought that somebody was quoted saying that chayiv 11, according to us, will be pagam lakuna, but the Gemara said it's not true. And the Gemara says he really meant to say that according to Yeshua, chayiv krisus is enough to make the child a pagam lakuna, which is not relevant to us because well, there's even a mamzer. It's worse than that. But even according to Yeshua, he'd agree that it's pagam lakuna. So now the bottom line is a bomb chiddush that is very sadly it's very relevant. What's the din of a child of a nida, a woman who's married? And the rest don't keep Taras HaMishpacha. That's a Chiv Koris. Every time the husband and wife, they have relations without, when she's a Nida, they're Chiv Koris. Is a child born a Mamzer? That would be a lot of Mamzerim. What?
I think no.
So the question is why? So far, according to what we learned, we said Chiv Koris is a Nida. Chiv Koris is a Mamzer. The child is a Mamzer. So every time if a person had relations with his own wife, but she was a nida, so the child born of that union should be a mamzer. Amar Abaya, kol modim b'ba'al anida ve'al amud beis ba'al asota she'en avad mamzer. Even according to Shimon HaTimni, what we paskin, that chayv v'koros makes a mamzer, but everyone's masking that a nida, even though it's chayv koros, the child is not a mamzer. And also a sota. A sota is not chayv koros, but a sota is a chayv yelav. It means if a man's wife secluded with another man and he was suspect that she's having relations and he warned her not to be in seclusion with him, and she did, so then she becomes asa to the husband until she drinks from the Mayim HaMorim. She's asa to be with the husband already. That's until she drinks. When she drinks, then she's allowed, and she's proven innocent, then she's allowed to have relations with her husband. Until then, she's not allowed to. What if he transgressed and he had relations with her after she was already secluded? She became a sota, but the husband had relations with her. He transgressed the lo saseh. Is Rabbi Akiva going to hold that the child is a mamzer? We hold a chorus only. It's not chayv chorus. But according to Rabbi Akiva, the child of a relation with a wife who's a sota should also make a mamzer. So he says no. Everyone's masking, even according to Rabbi Akiva, that says chayv lavin makes a mamzer, but the sota is not going to be included.
Excuse me, it's not a problem for a need to have a child.
What do you mean?
I thought if she's bleeding and she's in need.
No, she does never went to the mikvah. She's after.
Neither just meant she didn't.
Neither means she once had a menstrual and she never went to the mikvah, so she's in neither forever.
She's in need forever. Okay.
And
she
people who don't keep Torah so much bracha, they have children, right? So the question is, are they mamzerim? So it says no, they're not mamzerim, even though it's chayv kares, they're not mamzerim. The nida, why is that so? Why? What's the proof to say that? What's the reason to say that the child of a nida is not a mamzer? The tapsi kedushin, because now the Gemara says a big chiddush, a big it spreads light on the whole thing. That the point is not so much how much the avera is, if it's a lav or kores or chayv mises bezdin. The point is that severity of avera, does that stop the kedushin from taking effect? If somebody marries a chayv lavin, he's aviat mukudeshesli. You may give her a ring and said you're married. Does it take effect? Are they married? If someone gives the kedushin to a chayv krisus, to a sister, does the kedushin take effect? Are they married? Does she need a get? Or even if they make believe they made as if they're getting married, but it doesn't take, nothing happened. That's the question. So the Gemara says that the real machlokes, the pneumius of the machlokes of chayve lavin, chayve krisus, chayve mises bezdin is not so much how much the avera is, it's much does the kedushin take effect. The one Rabbi Akiva holds that chayve lavin, the kedushin doesn't take effect, which we had such a brisa before. He also don't need a get even. If someone married a chayve lavin, let's say according to Yehuda, anusa, or whatever kind of chalutza, whatever the case might be of a chayve lavin. So according to Rabbi Akiva, the kedushin don't take effect. According to Rabbanan, we big paskin does take effect. It takes effect. They need to get, but a chayve krisus does not take effect. According to Rabbi Yeshua, chayve krisus also takes effect. Only chayve mises doesn't. The real point we're talking about is not the avera as much as if kedushin takes effect. And nida is an exception. That even though nida is a chayv kares, but the kedushin does take effect. If someone were married, it happens. Sometimes a person, when they're getting married, the wife is a nida. The woman, the kala is a nida. The kedushin could take effect. She becomes married even though she's a nida. That's called the chuppah nida. That it's possible to do kedushin even though she's a nida. So that's the Gemara's point. That even though it's chayv kares, but it's a kind of a chayv kares which the kedushin does take effect. So therefore, as far as a mamzer, the criteria to make a mamzer is if it's tofes kedushin. And since by a nida the kedushin is tofes, so therefore the child is not a mamzer. Nida tafsi ba kedushin. How do you know? How do you know that kedushin is tofes by nida? Shenema usehi nida sa Allah. Over there, it's talking about if a man has relations with a nida, so it says he becomes tummy. He becomes tummy like her. The ball nida becomes tummy like the nida. But it says these words usehi, and the more is dashing usehi that it happens. It's a drash. It doesn't even mean pashup pshat. Afilu b'shas nida sa tafsi ba kedushin. Even if she's a nida, the kedushin could happen. Utehi, that it could become, even if she's a nida, she could become married. That's Rashi, how Rashi learns the drash. So therefore, since kedushin is tofes, even though it's a chayve krisus, the child is not a mamzer. Sota nami, the tafsi ba kedushin. So the way it says over here, Rashi, as I say, Rashi has a kasha on it, but Rashi says, how do you know that sota is tofes kedushin? If someone, what would be the case first of all, tofes kedushin? If somebody's wife was a sota, means that she has seclusion with a man after Kinyan Stira, after he wanted her and she had seclusion anyway, she became a sota. He divorced her, and then he married her again. Does the kedushin take effect? So the Gemara says yes, kedushin takes effect, even on a sota. And how do you know? So the Gemara doesn't say. In our girsa, the Gemara doesn't say. Tais has a different girsa, but in our girsa, it doesn't say. It just says sota stofus kedushin. How does the Gemara know? You should be reading a pasuk. by need, it brings a pasuk. Here it doesn't bring a pasuk. So Rashi says, the fact that the kedushin don't go off, that's a proof that it stays on. The fact that the kedushin don't go off, as soon as she becomes a sota, she become unmarried automatically. You don't say that. Is a proof that the kedushin stays on. Tais asks the kasha, if so, you don't need a drasha by neither also, because when a person's wife becomes a neither, the marriage doesn't dissolve. So Tais asks the kasha and Rashi, but that's how Rashi learns the Gemara. Yes.
If the Baal was left back with the sake of the wife,
Right.
he forgave her.
He what?
He forgives her.
That doesn't make a difference.
So maybe the whole.
I don't think I don't. Maybe there's a Gemara about it in Sota, but I don't think that's true. Even it's not a question of pressing charges. Once he warned her not to have seclusion with him, and did, she becomes a sota, and if she can't, she has to drink from the Maimah Morim in order to prove her innocence. And if she's not proven innocence, they can't stay married anymore. Surely, if she definitely had relations, then surely this doesn't have to do with him. Once a woman has relations out of marriage, she's also to the husband, and even if he says, "I'll go on with it anyway," it's us. He's not allowed to stay married there. People should know that. You know, the women should know that. It shouldn't happen to anybody, but people should be told that they should know that it has lots of consequences if a person has relations out of marriage. They're not allowed to stay married. Tanya Nam Yochim. We had a price like this. What's the point of saying that even though neither is chayv koros, even though sota is a chayv elavin, but as far as the child's a mamzer, everybody holds that the child's not a mamzer, not according to us, and neither according to us, even though chayv koros should make a mamzer, but not, and even according to Rabbi Kiva that holds that a chayv elavin makes a child a mamzer, but the sota not. And the reason is because the real criteria is not the chayv elavin, chayv krisus aspect as much as tefisas kedushin. And these things, there is kedushin, the kedushin don't go off, doesn't get dissolved, and somebody would marry a nida, does take effect, and a sota. So therefore, the child is not a mamzer. Tanya Nam Yochi, Hakol Modim Bala Nida, Bala Sota, Bala Shemeres Yavam. Throws in a third case over here. Or Shemeres Yavam. What's a Shemeres Yavam? A woman whose husband died without children. So Lo Siye she's not allowed to marry out, and she married out. So it's a chayv elavin. If somebody marries a woman who's waiting for yibum, so they transgressed a lo saseh. Lo siye So is the child born a mamzer according to Rabbi Kiva? According to Allah, not, because it's not a chayv koros. But according to Rabbi Kiva, chayv elavin would make the child a mamzer. So if someone married a woman who's waiting for yibum, so the child should be a mamzer. So no, everyone's molded that the child of Shemeres Yavam is not going to be a mamzer. Shein of Lad mamzer. And the Gemara doesn't say there's Rashi over here, but Rashi helps us. Lo sihiyah, the word tihiyah. Tihiyah means that it does happen. So the same way the Gemara said, Usini das Allah, here also the Rashi will be that if he does marry her, it takes effect. She shouldn't marry out, but if she does, the pasuk's mashma that it does take effect. So since it's tefisas kedushin, so the child's not a mamzer. So how come Abai didn't mention Abai? He just spoke about the Nida and Asot. He didn't talk about the third case of a Shemeres Yavam. He should have said a third example, that a Shemeres Yavam also was a case of a chayv elavin, which kedushin takes effect. Abaye Shemeres Yavam Masafkala Ikirav Ikishmuel. So the word doesn't go into the detail over here. It says in the side that it's later on Tzadik Beis and how do you point out Gimel that there is a question if there's tefisas kedushin by a Shemeres Yavam. This is not so simple. What I just said that Shemeres Yavam there is tefisas kedushin, that if the Shemeres Yavam married out, she married somebody without getting halitza. So there's a machlokes if it's tefisas kedushin or not. And according to those who hold that kedushin is not tofes, so then the child would be a mamzer. So he couldn't just say simply. Rabbi couldn't just say that if Shemeres Yavam marries out, everyone agrees that the child is not a mamzer because it's tofes kedushin. Because it's not so simple. It's a machlokes Rav and Shmuel later on if that's true or not. Some hold, I forgot who, maybe Rav. Rav holds that the kedushin is not tofes and therefore the child will be a mamzer. According to Rav, the child will be a mamzer because there's no kedushin is not tofes.
The Shemeres Yavam is only if there's a brother, right?
Right, good.
Otherwise,
if there's no brother, so then she's free automatically. There's nothing to do yibum, right? Okay, so that we finished the sugya a little, and now it goes on to a little agarata. The rest of the parak now is agarata. It comes in Amish side point. What did it say in the Mishnah? The Shimon ben Nazai said they found the Megillah Shchuchsin. They found some lineage document. There's a better word for it. How do you say that? The document about lineage, roots, document of roots, whatever. And over there it said that a certain person, genealogical genealogical document. And over there it said that Ploni, a certain man, is a mamzer. And over there, but it specified a mamzer from H ish.
Yeah.
So over there, Shimon ben Azai said that it sounds like that one wrote it, wanted to say that because it's a chayv yemises bezin, like Rabbi Yeshua. That was the diak that Rabbi Shimon ben Azai said in our Mishnah. We don't pass like that. We pass that even chayv course also makes a mamzer. This was the third one, right? And we passed like the second one.
Yeah.
But the Gemara brings it in just for the rest of the brisa, which is going to say a lot of agadata. Tani Shimon ben Azai Omer Masasim Megillah Susim B'Yerushalayim because of what Ish Ploni Mamzeh Meishes Ish. So far, that's the Mishnah. We have the Mishnah ready. But he found other things on that document besides being a genealogical document. It also had other information on it. I don't know why they did on the same paper. It said other things also. Two more things that it said. Because of what Mishnah Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov Kav v'Naki. It said that the teaching of Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov is Kav v'Naki. They say Kav. The word Kav means there's a certain measurement. It's called a Kav. I think a Kav is the size of the volume of 24 eggs. It's called a Kav. So the point here is saying it's a little, like it's a little bit. Means you don't find Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov so many times in the Mishnayos, but it's Naki, but it's pure. It means whenever he says something, you pass him like him, even though he doesn't talk a lot. But when he does talk, so then it's pure. Kav and Naki. And based on this, we pass him like Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov, unless otherwise specified. The Allah is like Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. That's what he found in the document. Besides saying that Ploni is a mamzer from HSH, it also said Mishas Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov Kav and Naki.
What does he have to do with it?
Nothing. It was found in the document. In the document, it said a couple of things.
Just about him.
About Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. My chavrusa told me he's
not the,
nothing to do with the mamzer.
nothing to do with the mom.
Somebody, my chavrusa, he's a tour guide.
Yeah.
So he said that they found a lot of ksubas and gittin. They found old, and on the other side was a shopping list.
Oh, I see.
On one side was a ksuba or a get, and the other side they need a piece of paper. So I don't know why. But here it says on this document, they wrote this is more of an official document,
Yeah.
but besides having the lineage about a
It's
certain
not
person was a
about him.
mamzer, it said you always pass him like Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov.
Okay.
And also a third thing, because of Menashe against Yeshaya. It said historically Menashe killed Yeshaya. Menashe was the son of Chizkiah. The king Chizkiah was a big tzaddik. He had a son. Menashe was a big Russia. He was the king. It says in the Divrei Yom, but then he did tshuva. It says in the pasuk. But he killed Yeshaya. Yeshaya was Yeshaya the Navi. Menashe killed Yeshaya. This Gemara here doesn't say, but there's another Gemara that says, we learned it in Brachos, that when Yeshaya told Chizkiah, you're going to die because you didn't marry, so he said, told Gemara over there, he said, give me your daughter. Maybe the child will come out good. It doesn't say if he did, but according to that, if he married Yeshaya's daughter, so this was his grandfather. So if Menashe killed Yeshaya, besides killing Yeshaya, he also killed his grandfather. It was his grandfather. It was his mother's father. But our Gemara doesn't go into that. But it says, the person doesn't say either, but the Gemara is saying, like in Masorah, Menashe killed Yeshaya. Amar Rava, made them daine v'katle. Rava says that he didn't just kill him without some kind of excuse. He judged him. He had kashas on him, and that's why he killed him with a firm reason, even though that wasn't his real reason. And the Gemara is going to say right away would have killed him whatever reason he wanted to kill him. But he had kashas on him. He has 3 kashas on his nevuah, and because of that, he killed him as if he's a Navi Sheker or something like that.
No, he was even going up the front.
As if he's being firm. And the Gemara is going to say right away that Shai knew he was going to kill him even if he answers all the kashas. So he didn't even bother answering the kashas. But also, I don't know if this Gemara is to be taken literally. It seems more esoteric or something behind the scenes. But let's read the words as it says it. It's going to have 3 kashas on Yeshaya, and then the Gemara is going to say how he killed him, and then the Gemara is going to say the answer to the kasha, to the 3 kashas. So in the green and the pink over here, the green is the pasuk says in the Torah, and the pink is going to be the kasha that he asked from that Yeshaya contradicted the Torah. Menashe said to Yeshaya, Moshe, your Rebbe, means the Rebbe of all the Nevi'im, Rav Shel Kol Nevi'im. Moshe Ben is the biggest Navi, and he said that in the name of Hashem, that nobody can see, man can't see me and live. And you say, you said in your nevuah that I saw Hashem. You say on yourself, Yeshaya said, I saw Hashem. Moshe said that Hashem said, nobody can see me and live, and you're living. And how could you prophesy something that Hashem said cannot be? That's one kasha. Moshe who is like Hashem our God, that any time that we call out to him, Hashem always answers us. And you say not like that. You said, seek Hashem when he's found. That means not always found. He's not always available. So that's a contradiction against the Torah. And the third kasha, Moshe Es mispar yamach amalei. And the bracha when Moshe says the where's this pasuk? Es mispar yamach amalei shmos chav gimel. Sounds like in Mishpatim. So I'm gonna fill the number of your days. I'll give you a full life. That means that the maximum bracha that could be is that you'll have a full life. And you said, Yeshaya said, after Chizkiyahu was doomed to die. So it says over there that he cried to Hashem, and then Hashem answered him, and Yeshaya told him, in the name of Hashem, I'm going to add on to your days 15 years. So you're saying, Bosafti, as if it's going to be added on, more than he was supposed to have lived. So those are the three kashas. One kasha is it possible to see Hashem? Yeshaya said, Ve'eres Hashem. Second one is, how come you only limited to seek Hashem? So he's always available. And the third kasha is it possible that Hashem will add on more years than it was originally destined for him. So Yeshaya didn't even bother answering the kashas. I know he's not going to listen to my answer. The Amalei, Ashav amazed. If I'm going to tell him the answer is, I'm going to make him amazed because I know he's going to kill me anyway. He wants to kill me not because of those reasons. He's going to kill But he has another way. He's going to try to escape. He's not going to just stand there. The more continues, he's going to try to escape. Hashem, Ivla Ba'aza. He said Hashem, like some kind of, in order to be able to do something supernatural. And he became absorbed into a cedar tree. Means he was able to absorb himself into a cedar tree, and that way he thought that he'd be protected. Since he said Hashem, I don't know why he didn't, because he right away that this didn't help him. But he could have said Hashem. He could have, flown 500 miles away. I'm not sure. But he said Hashem in order to become, again, I think maybe the more is esoteric. I don't know if to take it literally, but it says he said Hashem, and that he made himself to become absorbed into a cedar tree. But Menashe saw that, and he cut the tree. Asua la'arzav and asua. So they brought their cedar tree, and they started cut, and they were sawing it down. They cut it up, and asua they brought. They brought ours as the areas, the Nasrua and Nasser, and they sawed it. And they thought he killed him like that. When he came to his mouth, and they were sawing the tree, and that was Yeshaya was inside, so he died. And the Gemara is saying, now this is not Yeshaya, this is not Menashe, but the pasuk, the Gemara says the reason why he had delicate, vulnerable mouth to death is because there was a time against Yeshaya that he had once upon a time said that I'm amongst the Tamei nation. He was saying that I saw the Shechina and I'm a ish Tamei Svasayim Anochi, Vasocham Tamei Svasayim Anochi Yoshev. I'm Tamei of lips, and the whole nation is Tamei lips. So I don't deserve to see the Shechina. But the Gemara says he shouldn't have said about the Am Yisrael. He should have said about himself, but don't say about the people. So because of that he said some words that were not proper. So that's why when it came time over here, his mouth didn't have enough schus to be saved, and that's why he did die. So according to the Gemara, Menashe killed Yeshaya. This was the story that he killed him, and he had a pretense about 3 kashas that he had. Yeshaya didn't bother answering the kashas. He tried to save himself by getting absorbed into an eres, but it didn't help him, and Menashe did kill him. The rest of the Gemara now, till the end of the paragraph, is going to talk about how to answer the contradictions. The 3 contradictions that Menashe asked and Yeshaya did not answer. What is the answer? The contradiction. How did Yeshaya say different than the pasuk? So the Gemara is going to answer all kashas. The first kasha was Va'eres Hashem. How is it possible Yeshaya said that I saw Hashem? Kidatanya, as we learned in the Brayso, Kol HaNeviim nistaklu bas paklaya mishena meira. Moshe Rabbeinu nistaklu bas paklaya meira. All the other Neviim, they saw prophecy in a lens that was not clear, but Moshe Rabbeinu saw on a clear lens. So the first round of the Gemara would be that when Moshe Rabbeinu said that nobody could see me, that means to see me in a clear lens. Everything Moshe Rabbeinu saw, the nevuah that he did see, was clearly, and that he wasn't able to see Hashem. But Yeshaya, anyway, everything he saw was not clear lens. It was a blurry lens. So that he's able to see Hashem. Rashi says a little different, but we're saying there's a push-up shot in the words. That was the answer to the first kasha. There are 2 ways of saying called to see Hashem. To see Hashem blurry, it is possible to see. But to see Hashem the way Moshe Rabbeinu usually sees, that he wasn't able to see. The second kasha was there Hashem b'matzo, that Yeshaya said, seek Hashem when he's available, and that Torah's mashma Hashem is always available. The answer is, well, it depends who's seeking Hashem. If it's a tzibur, the whole community is seeking Hashem, then they can come anytime. But if it's an individual, then he's not. Then he can't. Then Hashem is not always available. And when that's what the Yishai meant. So even if you're a yechidim, you're individuals, also seek Hashem when he's available. And then the Gemara says, when is he available? For the yachid, yevamos. Rav Nachman, Rav Baravua. That's Aseret Tshuva, that Hashem is available even to yechidim. But to the tzibur, I think that the point of tzibur is not that 10 people get together and do tshuva, but it means that when it's a community avera, there are some averas that are considered individual averas. There's some averas that it's a tzibur. They're not taking care of the chinuch. They're not taking care of tzedakah. They're voting in the wrong kind of politicians, whatever it might be. That's called a tzibur that an avera. So then they have to do tshuva as a tzibur. That's available anytime. But a yachid to do tshuva is only when it's available. When is that? Only Aseret Tshuva. And the third kasha, that's the rest of the Gemara now, that the Torah seems to say that only a person can get full life, but he can't get added on to that. And Yeshaya said, well, in the name of Hashem, I'm going to add on 15 years to your life. So that's machlokas. How do you learn pshat in the pasuk? It means it isn't so simple that it means I'm going to fill your life. It could mean that amalei in the Torah also could mean even more. It means it's not so simple. What Menashe took for granted that the word amalei just means to fill and not to give more. That isn't so simple. That's machlokes. The Tanya, those are the years. Doesn't mean shnei, doesn't mean two. It means the years. The years of the doros. The years that a person is was supposed to have gotten. Zacha mashlim lo, lo zacha boxen lo. Rabbi Kiva holds that the maximum you could get is only what you were destined to get originally. And if a person does a various, he might get less, but he can't get more than he was originally assigned. That's Rabbi Kiva, like Menashe held. Like Menashe said pshat in the pasuk, and we're going to have to explain, according to him, how is it possible to have all safti? How is it possible that Hashem told Chizkiyahu was going to get more? That was the kasha that Menashe had. But Rabbi Kiva does hold the way Menashe understood that amalei means just to be full, but it can't be more. But Chachamim say it's not pshat in the pasuk. But Chachamim momim zacha mosifim lo, lo zacha postan lo. That the word amalei doesn't just mean to be full. The word amalei can mean even more, overfull. That's also pshat in the pasuk. If he's zocha, he can get even more years that he was originally destined, and if not, he can get less than he was destined. And the Rabbanan asked the Kasha Rabbi Kiva, the pasuk we're talking about. By Yeshaya it says that Hashem told Yechizkiyahu, I'm going to give you more, I'm going to add on. And according to you, it's only maximum is how much he was originally destined. And by Yeshaya it says, so Rabbi Kiva says that's not pshat Vosafti. Means one of the psukim is not dafka. Rabbi Kiva says that answer Menashe's kasha that for safti means the Rabban has the kasha as that Menashe has. Here it says amalei. According to Rabbi Kiva, it means only full, and for safti means more. So Rabbi Kiva said no, it doesn't mean that. For safti means they gave him back what it was his. Means originally that was all he's supposed to live, and then he lost it because of he wasn't getting married. So that's the reason why Hashem said, "I'm going to take it away." And then when he did tshuva, Hashem's going to give it back to him. So the 15 years was not added on to his original destiny. That was taken away and given back to him again. So that's the answer how to answer Rav Menashe's kasha. And that's how Rabbi Kiva learns. Teda, and now Rabbi Kiva wants to prove to his point that originally he was supposed to have lived. That's the pasuk that it says much earlier. Rashi brings down from Yerova, much earlier, there was a nevuah said that Yoshio was going to be born. Yoshio was after Menashe. Menashe's son was Ammon, and Ammon's, I think that's how it goes. After Chizkiyahu, then Ammon, Menashe, then Ammon, and then I think Yoshio was after him. So if there was a prophecy long before the whole story that Yoshio was going to be born, how could that have been if Chizkiyahu was not supposed to have lived so long, and then temporarily it was taken away, then it was given back? That's how Rabbi Kiva proves that the 15 years were originally coming to him. But Rabbanan say it's not a proof. Rabbanan miksib b'chizkiyahu, the way is David ksib. In b'chizkiyahu, Rabbanan say it's not a kasha. It could be that it was really added on, and originally he wasn't destined to live so long, and Yoshio wouldn't have been born from him. It just says Yoshio is going to be born to base David. It doesn't mean dafka from the lineage of Chizkiyahu. It would have been from somebody else. Now that Chizkiyahu got extra years added to him, so now Hashem made that Yoshio should be born from him. But not necessarily does it have to have been from the original allotted time that was given to Chizkiyahu. So it comes out of Machlokes, just to chaz over the 3 points. The first one was if it's possible to see Hashem. So it's not possible to see Hashem with a clear lens like Moshe Rabbeinu, but with an unclear lens, it is possible. Second kasha was Hashem so the tzibur could be any time. but the Yachid is only being Motso during Ashes Mechuva. And the third kasha is Machlokas how to answer the kasha. Either Esmis Bayamacha Malay does not mean full, it means even overfull. That there's no contradiction in the first place. That Hashem is possible to get more years than you are allotted in the beginning. And the other way to answer the kasha is that it's not possible to get more. And when he didn't get more, when the Vosafti, he didn't get more. He just got back what he would have lost. And the last Gemara is very short. Ishto Shemesa, Yevim Shemesa. So we'll learn Taisus' chat. It says in the mission, we said 6 cases. It says about a wife died, a wife that was divorced and died, a wife that was divorced and remarried and then died. And it says in all those cases, he's allowed to marry a sister. And then it says the same thing over again by Yevama, that a sister-in-law, a brother's wife without children. So how about her sister? So it says if his wife died, his mother, if his wife, he divorced, he did chalitz, not the wife. His Yevama died, he's allowed to marry the sister. His Yevama got chalitza and then died, he's allowed to marry the sister. His Yevama got chalitza and remarried and then died, also can marry the sister. So the last 3 cases, they were all superfluous because it can't be worse than a wife. So that's what the Gemara says. I'm Rav Yosef, this whole last case, the last 3 cases is all unnecessary. We could have figured it out ourselves. The Gemara doesn't hold it for Kasha. It's extra. You could have figured it out ourselves. I wanted to tell you, the Gabi Yibam also, that it's not worse than a wife. In the same way, by a wife, that's the halacha. In any case that she dies, in any state that she dies, it's mutter to marry the sister. So also by Yevama is surely not worse, and it's unnecessary. We could figure it out ourselves. Adkan, yeshikach everybody, and we'll be back in a couple of minutes to start again where we left off in Pirkei Avos. Yeshikach, thank you.